been like a year since my last deck profile, and I don't have any excuses as to why I haven't been posting, so I'm going to save all the talk for after the video and just show you the deck profile here today. So to start things off, we run 2 Diva. This card recently became semi-limited on the ban list. Now, I don't have a second super, and although the super is the prettiest rarity, I just don't have it, so I think I'm going to be retiring this one copy until I pick up a second one. Plus the ultras are like from Duelist Saga, which is my favorite rarity, to be honest. I'm not going to give you much explanations as to, really generic cards. Neptibus, Diva summons Neptibus, Neptibus sends Dragoons, adds a Sea Serpent. Straightforward combo card. Next we have the 3 Dragoons. Dragoon searches for any Sea Serpent when it's just sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect. This can be from your hand or by an Exceed monster. For other Atlanteans we run double Infantry. Infantry has 2 effects, same with Dragoons, but Infantry can either destroy a face-up card in the field, or if this card's on the field, you can get an additional normal summon for a level 4 or lower Sea Serpent. This doesn't happen often, but with cards like Anemone or with Sarita Scaldred, you're able to get 2 Diva effects per turn, which is pretty cool. The last Atlantean, we run the single Marksman. Marksman's a good card. It was actually played at 3 way back in the day, because you could just summon it off of Diva, attack directly, then summon Dragoons or summon Infantry, and just make synchro plays in Master Rule 3 format. We only run 1 copy of this card just because there aren't a lot of back row decks, but this may change. It's a new format, after all. Sub-Terrors and Altergeist may be the new meta that we have to face against, so running multiple Marksmen may become the thing again. But as of now, I'm still experimenting and testing things out. I think 1 Marksman and 2 Infantry are fine. You can always recycle them with a Pot of Avarice, which just came off the list. For the last extenders in terms of Sea Serpents, we run Mullen Glacier. This card is a standard in almost any Mermail deck. With Dangers and Thunders pretty much out of the picture, Mullen Glacier just becomes an infinitely better card to summon and just rip 2 cards out of the opponent's hand. Lapis Dragon is a level 5 tuner that you can search and free summons itself. And this card is good for going into synchros like Brionac or synchros like Borrel of Savage Dragon or White or well. If not, you can just use it as link fodder. Moving on for the Mermails, we run 3 Mermail Abyss Megalo and 3 Mermail Abyss Teus for our level 7s. These are very important cards for the core strategy of Water, simply because these cards discard a water monster to special summon themselves from the hand. And by doing so, they get effects. Abyss Megalo, when it discards 2 waters, can search for an Abyss spell or trap card, while Abyss Teus can search for a level 4 or lower Mermail monster. So pretty much I run 3 Abyss Megalos instead of 2 because I want to try and trigger as many Neptibus or Dragoons as possible from my hand, even Infantry, just because this deck is good at both going first and comboing off, or going second and completely OTKing the opponent through an established board. And by running multiples, you can increase your chances of discarding Atlantean cards to combo off or destroy things. For the small Mermails, I run 1 Mermail Abyss Pike. This card's good for combos, 1 Mermail Abyss Dime, and 1 Mermail Abyss Gun. All 3 of these cards are meant for combos. There's a very important combo which is focused around synchro summoning, which I will show you when I get to the extra deck. Abyss Dime is usually searched off of Abyss Pike to get a free summon, so you can synchro with Lapis Dragon or just make it link play. Gun is there because you can discard it to special summon Abyss Megalo or Teus or even Pike or Dime from your graveyard. For the last 2 Mermails I do run for the tiny ones, Mermail Abyss Mander. This card isn't really there for a combo per se. I mean, there are combos with him, but his main purpose is to increase the levels of Abyss Teus and Megalo to level 9 to summon True King of all calamities, because that card just shuts out so many decks. Decks like Heroes and decks like Spiral, which use a lot of dark types and earth types, can just completely be walled out with this one card. And for the final Mermail card I do run, some may not agree with me when I say that I really enjoy this card. It's pretty much a Water Honest that's searchable off of Abyssalacia, which is insane when you're like, when it's the opponent's turn, you're second, and you can just discard Infantry, search Nri, pop a card, and then if they try to attack you can start blowing up your field to just increase the attack of your monster so they can't beat over it. I believe you can use her effect in the damage step, which makes her so much better. For the last water engine I do run, it's the Swap Frog engine with 3 Swap Frogs and 1 Remnant Totem. The purpose of this engine is to just put monsters on board for link summoning, as well as the occasional Totally Awesome or Synchro play. But you can't Synchro summon with Remnant Totem, so it's mostly just Swap Frogs, being that level 2 that's needed to go into a farther Synchro play. It's this engine will particularly get a lot better come Master Rule 5, simply because you can just make Totally Awesomes all day. The last monsters I run are 3 Ash Blossoms. This is not supposed to be Effect Veiler. Believe it or not, I still don't have my solid copy of Ash Blossoms. I've always kind of like got them, then sold them, then bought them or traded for them, then sold them again back when they're like only in maximum crisis as a secret rare. But I'll definitely need to get my hands on them if I want to play in locals or regional level events. For the spell cards, I think I run an exact 10 copies. 3 Called by the Grave. This card is pretty important because Spiral and you don't want your Abyss Diva to be negated. Of course, Infinite Impermanence and Cyframe Lord Gamma, or Cyframe Gear Gamma can just go through this, ignoring Called by the Grave. But for the occasional players that use like Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom, you can just stop it cold turkey with Called by the Grave. Next, I run 2 Salvage. This card can honestly be substituted for any extender. You could also substitute it for 2 Super Polys, 2 Mind Controls, 2 gameciel Sea Turtle Kaiju. This card is just a blank spot that I had in my main deck. But these 3 cards are insane top decks, like in the mid to late game, just because you can get so much advantage off of these 1 cards. Because all 3 are +1s. Avarice can put your Dragoons back to make Neptibus live again. Some combos don't use all 3 Dragoons, so Salvage can bring back, let's say, Diva or Neptibus, and then you can like send Dragoons or Infantry to add Dragoons, and just basically save your game state. For last cards, we have 1-for-1 and Monster Reborn. These card, this is another Neptibus. This card is just a maximum extender. You can revive your opponent's cards, you can revive your own cards. It's just a really good card. And for the last cards, we run Abyss Scale Mizuchi. It's a searchable spell negate. It stops Super Poly, it stops Dark Ruler No More. It's a really important card, especially if you're going first to combo off. The last card in the deck, I think 41 cards, is Abyss Sphere. Now the reason why I play this card, I will show you once I go into the extra deck. It's pretty much its only use is just that 1 extra deck card. To start off in the extra deck, we run Tatsunoko and White Aura Monoceros. These cards are a very important part of the standard Abyss Pike combo. Now this is when you open Deep Sea Diva, which becomes a lot more frequent since the new ban list. Basically, Tatsunoko synchros with Abyss Pike from your hand to summon Monoceros, and Monoceros revives Abyss Pike. And then you get Abyss Pike's effect. Last synchro is Borlord Savage Dragon. Yeah, sorry for the proxies. It's just something I have to do. I just don't have access to physical cards. But Borlord Savage Dragon is your generic level 8 negate. It's easily summonable because you have Lapis Dragon and tons of level 3s that just free summon themselves. It's not difficult to make. The only instance you may have difficulty making him is when you don't have a link monster in the graveyard to equip him with. I'll just leave these up here. For the Exceed monsters, 1 Totally Awesome and 1 Bahamut Shark. This is just simple negate. You can still make this without having like infinite monster zones to summon into pre-Master Rule 5. You can just summon like Abyss Alacia or summon Abyss Starboy. Make this and then link summon Bahamut Shark and Starboy into Abyss Alacia. Make Borlord Savage Dragon or Abyss Gaios, so you have both a Totally Awesome, a live Abyss Alacia, and a Skill Drain or an Omni Negate. Yeah, speaking of Abyss Gaios, Abyss Gaios, this is actually supposed to be a first edition one, but like a year ago when I bought it off TCG Player, I was sent an unlimited by mistake, and you know, it's all fine. 1 True King of All Calamities. This card is just an insane card to play. If your deck can play it, you should. That's how good it is. I don't run any rank 8s or any other rank 7s simply because my extra deck's more focused on link summoning at the moment, simply because we're still in Master Rule 3, and a lot of the link monsters are super easy to make compared to restricted monster zones and summonable areas. To start off with link monsters, no link 1s. We're going straight to Cruel Anemone. This card is a huge combo starter, as well as a saver, because if you brick, you're able to use her to revive like Neptivus or swap Frog from the graveyard and just make like a totally awesome or just explode on your combos. And with Mistar Boy or Abyssalacia with Abyss Gaios and totally awesome. Yeah, speaking of that, we run one Mistar Boy and if I can find it, my Abyssalacia. You could run two Abyssalacias, but you cannot make Abyssalacia using Anemone because she's a Cybers type, so Mistar Boy is kind of the middleman for this. Extravagance builds play 3 Abyssalacia because you want this card. It's really good. It may be kind of slow at the start, but she's just such a big threat if she's left on the field. For link 3s, we run 1 Unicorn and 1 Trisbania. Trisbania is such a good card because comboed with Abyss Sphere, you set this up, search this with Abyss Megalo. During the opponent's turn, you flip this. You summon any Mermail to a zone it points to. Trisbania will banish this and all spell and trap cards on the field. And your opponent takes 500 life points for each of their cards banished with this card's effect. It's really good for blowing up boards before their traps become live next turn. That finishes up the level 3s. Alternatively, you could run IP Masquerena, a whole bunch of other Exceeds and Synchros, as well as Appaloosa. But because this build is kind of like an in-between between aggressive and combo, I had to make some sacrifices. One Surrey to Scaldred, because I run Salvage and Pot of Avarice, this card just becomes infinitely better. Drawing into any of those just extends your plays for days. It's also a way to get Borreled Savage Dragon to have multiple counters. The last 2 monsters I play is Borreled Dragon and Borreled Sword. This deck can plenty OTK without them, but these are just there because of Swap Frog and other just summonable monsters like Abyss Stein to just go into these cards. Many decks struggle to get over Borreled Dragon and Borreled Sword, and they just made hands that are suboptimal optimal. But yeah, moving forward, I could get rid of both Borreled Sword, Saryuja, maybe Trisbania, and take out a few cards from the main deck to put in the new Blackluster Soldier, the Link Monster, which if you use a level 7 to make, it makes it untargetable and destroyable by card effects, which is just insanely good moving forward if you're dealing with like spiral boards, etc. That's it for the main and extra. I don't have anything else to say for the wrong pile, for the deck profile, except that here's some other good options for extra deck cards. We have Synchros here, just as Omni Spell and Trap Negate. We have Lynx, Abyss Dweller, Omega. These cards are great, but they're only good for hand loop cards or strategies. Mecha Fan Beast Dracosac used to be really good. He was a main combo tool, but with If the World Chalice Assist, you are newly banned. It's just not so good anymore. We have a second Toad package, which is definitely going into my main build once Master Duel 5 rolls around for time. And that's pretty much it. So accompanying this deck profile will be a lot of test hands so I can show you the potential of this build. Also, later down the line, I'm going to be uploading another deck profile of a hand loop variant, as well as a going second variant, as well as a control variant. There's so many ways to play this deck. There's no one correct way. I've seen all types of builds get tops or get close or bubbling YCSs and such. So there's definitely a lot of creativity involved with this deck. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to comment down below what changes you would make to this deck profile and whether or not you agree with some of my choices. I know Abyss Nuri is not on a lot of people's radar as cards to put in this build. And you may have a different extra deck than mine, which is totally good.